Hi everyone, welcome to Strings and Formatting lecture. So strings are essentially text, and it can be either as a double quotation mark or a single quotation mark. And what strings have are letters and numbers, and the letters and numbers in a string are called elements. And strings are immutable, so that means that we can't swap out the elements inside of a string, and we'll see an example of that in a moment. So here we have a variable called greet equal to the hello world string. And if I use the len built-in Python function, which counts the number of elements inside of this greet variable, I get the output of 11 here. And that's because we have 5 for the hello, 5 for the world, but we also have this space in between that's counted. Hence we have a total of 11. Okay, so we're going to be going over formatting as well as doc strings. But first let's take a look at how to use a string. So if I were to do here s equals this is a quote inside a string. So you can see here I have the double quotation mark on either end, and I have inside of it the single quotation mark, and that's used quite frequently in Python coding. And let's say, for example, I want to get the very first letter, so T. What I can do is just an index of 0. So I've got the T, and let's say I want to swap this out for something else, like doesn't really matter, let's just put in B. If I run this, I'm going to get an error. So it says type error, string object does not support item assignment. So what that essentially means is that this string here, S, is immutable. And that means I can't swap out this T for a B. Okay, so if we were to also do a type of S, we're going to get str, which is a string. Okay, so let's take a look at adding strings together. So we'll take a look at 3 examples here. So what we have here is we have lang equal to Python, and then we have text equal to this is an awesome course. And what I like to do is add in the string. So of course I could do it here, but it doesn't really make much sense if I do like that. That's not really what I want. What I want is to go inside here, so I'll make some space and we'll put in here plus lang plus, and you can see we can add the strings together. Okay, and let's say we want to add in actual numbers though. So if I were to go to the second example, and we have here total, which is an integer of 1,200, and I want to add in the price, well, let's just give it a try. Total. We get a type error here as well, so we can only concatenate string, not integer. So we can't add a integer or a float to a string. They have to be the same data type. So the way to resolve this is just to convert this integer into a string. So we just do str, wrap that round, and now if I run it, you can see it works perfectly fine. And we can also just check the type. So if I were to do here type total, you can see it is a string now. Okay, great. And let's say we have here a pretty standard print statement, but it would be much easier to read if these were on 3 separate lines. So order 10 items on one line, charge 50.99 another line, and this one here, thanks for buying, on the very last line. The way to do that is simply to do a backslash. So backslash n. Okay, so you can see here it's on the next line, and here as well, backslash n. Okay, so you can see it's a lot more readable in the print statement. Okay, so let's take a look at string functions now. So here we have names equal to Naruto all the way to Kawaki, and we have items, which is simply all these letters here. So let's take a look at the names. If I were to do here names, and I do, let's say, upper, you can see we have uppercase for all of them. Of course I can do lower, but they're already in lowercase. And if I were to do capitalize, you can see here the very first letter of the string gets capitalized. But what I really like is this function, and that's called title. Now if I run it, you can see that all of the names of each of the characters have the capitalization of the first letter of each of these strings, which is really clever because this is essentially just one string. This here is just one string really. Okay, so what about the items? Well, the interesting thing about the items is if I were to do items dot, let's say, count, and I want to count, let's say, A, you think that we'd only get the output of 3, but we actually get 5 because it counts also these as well, which is quite clever. And the other thing also is, let's say I want to do B. well, you can see that it's case sensitive because we've only got 2 B's being counted, even though we have a capitalized one here as well. However, if I were to do dot lower and use this function and run it, you can see now that we have 3 here. Okay, so we're going to be using the names later on in the formatting, but there's one other very special function that I find very useful, and that is if I do names dot, just run this as it is. If I do dot split, now I can split by what we have here is a space in between. So I can do here like that, and you can see now I can actually access them individually because they're in a list. And if I do index of 0, we have Naruto. We're going to learn more about indexing in a future lecture, but just for now, you can see that we can index and get Hinata, and I can do the last one and get Kawaki here. So with -1, it gets the very last string, in this case the very last element. So each of these strings are now individual elements inside of this list here. However, if I were to get rid of the splits, this is just one giant element because it's one string. Okay, so let's take a look at the doc string. Okay, so what we have here is a doc string. Now, you might be wondering why we're using a doc string here. Well, doc string is very useful if you want to have multiple lines of string instead of it just being one line. So for example, if I were to do, let's say, this is one line and I want a second one. Okay, that's fine on its own, but if I want to put this on the next line, you can see it causes an error, a syntax error. So the way to resolve that is to use a doc string, and that's when we have here 3 on this side and 3 on this side, like so. Now it works. Okay, so what I want to do, of course, as you can probably guess with this doc string, is I want to clean this up and get rid of all of these funny characters here. So the way to do that is if I do doc string, okay, I'm just going to define this as, let's say, clean string, and if I print it, print, okay, but I need to get rid of all these. So let's start off. The way to do that is if I do dot replace, and I can put in here the old. So the old is going to be, let's say, this here, and then I'm going to replace it with nothing. Okay, so you can see that's gone now, and then I can do another one, dot replace, and I can put in, let's say, get rid of the @ symbols, like so, and you can see it's gradually getting rid of all of it. And if I go obviously a bit too far here, what I can do is I can put this on another line. Put a dot there, and I'll put in here, let's say, get rid of the hashes. Okay, so you can see that's gone now. And we'll do another one. So I'll just put here a backslash and then a dot, replace, and let's get rid of the slash here as well. Oops, looks like I made a mistake here. Okay, because of that. Okay, great, so that's a lot better. Okay, so, and also I want to get rid of some space here. So there's some space at the top and bottom. So I can simply do here a dot strip. Okay, that's a lot more readable now. Alright, so that's the doc string. And let's take a look at some formatting. So we're going to go over some examples here. So 2 versions of formatting. I'm going to go over 3 examples. Okay, so what we have here is anime. And the anime is Naruto anime series is the best anime ever. The protagonist is, and then he is married to, and they have 2 children and 1 adopted son. Okay, so the names, as mentioned before, we're going to be using these. And of course, the way we can get these values is if we just do a split, like so. And I'll just grab this, and we can do here a dot format. In fact, what I will do is I'll just do it right here. Anime dot format, and then I could put in here asterisks like that. Okay, so in fact what I will do is I'll just print this out, this A, so it's more readable. Okay, so what you can see now is Naruto anime series is the best anime ever. The protagonist is Naruto, and he is married to Hinata. They have 2 children, Boruto and Hirari, and 1 adopted son, Kawaki. Okay, so you can see also the problem with this is that they're not capitalized. We don't have capitalization of the names of each of these characters. So the way to resolve that is simply do, as you recall, dot title. Okay, so like that. So I'll do it right here. So before we split, we do the dot title. Okay, and now you can see it's capitalized. And it's based upon these curly braces here. Okay, and what I can do is I can swap them around if I wanted to. So there's ways of doing that. Instead of having it like it is here, I can go and change the positions. So for example, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So these are the indexes for each of them. So if I were to do, let's say, 0 here, I get Naruto. And if I do, let's say, 3, I get Himawari. And if I do, of course, the last one, 4, I get Kawaki. So what I can do instead is I can go here. So this is 0 by default, but I can actually just change the numbers. So I can put in here, let's put 0 here, and then we'll do 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, and we'll do 4 here. Let's run that, see what we get. Okay, so now you can see it's the complete opposite. The protagonist is Kawaki. He's married to Himawari, and they have 2 children, Boruto and Hinata, and one adopted son, Naruto, which is kind of funny. Okay, so that's one version of formatting. There's going to be another one we'll look at in a moment, but this is my preferred way of formatting compared to the other version we'll look at later. Alright, so let's take a look at another example of formatting. So what we have here is we have a extras, so Sasuke, Sakura, and Sarada, and we have watch anime. So of course, all that I do is just a print, and all we have is just that, which is nothing special. But what we can do is I want to use the names one that we had earlier, this, and I want to put that in here. So what I can do is I can actually multiply this watch anime. So I can do here len names. Now you can see here I have a total of 5. Oh, hang on, I've got more than that here. Names, oh, that's because I have to do a split, excuse me. So I do dot split like that. Okay, so now we should have just 5 in total. Great. Okay, from that what we can do is we can go here and do a dot format asterisk, and then I can just do here names dot title dot split. Okay, and now you can see we have the names here. And what I'd like to do is I want to add in the other one as well, the extras. So instead of having this, I'm going to actually cut that out and put in, let's say, characters equals plus extras, same here, title dot splits, like so. Let's grab the characters and we can just paste it here. And also we have to put it here as well. Okay, great. So now you can see we have all of them. So you have Naruto all the way down to Sarada here. Okay, so that makes it a lot more dynamic. And I can actually just, let's say I'll get rid of this one for a second. Run that. And you can see we just have 5 of them. If I put it back, run it, you can see we have a total of 8 instead. Okay, so let's take a look at the alternative version of formatting, and that's a Python 3.6 version. So it was introduced with Python 3.6, and what I have here is A, B, and C with Steve, L, and Max. These are the names of characters, and then we have here 2 numbers, 2 integers, X and Y. So of course if I do, let's say S equals, let's call it ST equals Stranger Things, prints ST, let's print it out. You can see here we have all these curly braces, just like we saw before. But what I can do is I can go here and put F, instead of doing the dot formatting, so you might think we could just do the formatting, but I'm going to leave that one out and do this version. So we put F here, and then from that we can put in the variables. So I'm going to put in A, and I'll put in here B and C, and I'll just actually cut that out for a second. Okay, let's run that. So you can see we have L and Max and Steve. So the best character in Stranger Things is Steve, and then we have Elle and Max are a close second. Okay, so if I undo this, okay, and I want to put in the season 5 time skip should be, right, so I'm going to say a total of X, so 4 years. Should put in here 4 years, excuse me, and make it so that way what we can have here is the X, which is 4 years, plus the Y, so we can do arithmetic in it. Okay, and now you can see here the season 5 time skip should be 4 years and make it 1988. Alright, so that concludes my lecture on strings and formatting. I hope that's been insightful, and I'll see you in the next lecture where we'll be covering indexing.